All right, we are good to go. I am so happy to be able to meet with Miss Busy Woman, April Prayer. We both have our drinks here. Listen, I was gonna do coffee. I had planned, I've been wanting coffee really for 2 days and hadn't made the time to make a cup of coffee. How crazy is that? But then I was working out in the yard this morning, and hence, hopefully you won't see all that in the nails I was trying to scrub. And I was so hot because it is October, but God said something different about this temperature. 'Cause I was like, this is not fall temperature, and I'm hot. So I made myself a smoothie, a fresh
Oh,
smoothie.
very
Yes.
nice.
Love it, love it, love it. Trying to get the spinach in there and that good stuff in there. So again, let's get started with our cup and conversation. I was just like I was telling you, I have been waiting and waiting and waiting to be able to get the chance to talk with you. I follow you on social media. We've known each other forever and a day. And I'm like, I need to get caught up to speed with what's happening with you, what's going on. And I'll tell you why you're one of the people that I wanted to talk to, because you've always been straightforward, honest, funny, loving, kind, all of that good stuff. But you've also always been about your business. Like when from any time I've known you, when there was a problem or an issue or a challenge, you always look for the solution. You're like, okay, how can I fix it? What can I do? What can we do to make it right, as opposed to sitting around talking about what the problem is? And I've always liked that about you, because what you see is what you get with April Prayer. Okay. And I've always loved that and respected that. And so when I met you, of course, we were in a network marketing company together, and you were working as an attorney. As a matter of fact, my first time in Chicago was at your house.
Aha, that's
A
right. That's right.
long, long time ago. That's like, 10, 12 years ago, something like that. But it was at your house. You welcomed me into your home, and we just made some things happen. And at the same time, you were juggling a network marketing business and being a full-time attorney, which that in itself wasn't easy. And so now you transitioned. I still have this. I gave the board game to, I guess she'd be considered my niece in a way, a couple of times removed, but my niece and her husband in Michigan. They were going through some things, and they were here for Shakira's wedding. And I'm like, this is what you need. Take this back to your community, play it with your friends and family. And so I was like, I kept this part and screenshot her all the stuff with it. But it's like, that you transition into making like a serious board game. You started a company, Justice Junkie LLC, like with everything that you had going on. So let's just kind of get into it and just tell me a little bit about, like, how did you come into the field of law in the first place? Like, was that, did you have attorneys in your family? Is that what kind of pointed you in that direction? No, no.
Well, first of all, thank you for all the kind words, and I adore you as well. And I've always admired you. And Terrell and I would hop in a car and drive to wherever you were just to come hear you speak.
Yeah, y'all were the bomb. It's like, there they are, there they are. I love
So
it.
I went into law. It was kind of a fluke because I was in my last year at Duke
Hey,
University.
hey, hey, Duke.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do because my majors were English and Spanish, and I didn't know what I could really do with that. And my natural skill sets have always been speaking and writing, although I've worked on them significantly. And so was trying to figure out what to do with that. And I started looking at law school my last year at Duke, really as a placeholder, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. But my little 22-year-old brain did not process that this placeholder came with a $200,000 price tag. And so
Ouch.
I figured I would just go to law school and like we hear folks find themselves. That's what I was going to do in
Right.
law school for 3 years. The problem is
Wow.
I hated law school. I hated every moment of it except for my criminal law class. That is really probably the only thing that kept me from dropping out my first year.
Wow.
And so I dug into criminal law. I ended up getting an internship at the public defender's office, and I went to school in Washington, D.C. So I got an internship there, and I loved it. And after that, I wasn't interested in anything but doing public defense. And so I worked for a public defender. He was in the felony division, and I was his investigator. So I would go out and investigate cases to see who's telling the truth, who's hiding what. And he
Right.
would also send me to the jail when he didn't have time so I could go and relay messages to his client that he didn't want to say on the phone and then get information from the client. And I was just so well received, and I kind of was nervous at first. I'm like, okay, I'm a young girl. I'm going into a prison or jail by
Yeah.
myself. And I just expected the worst. And I didn't even get cat calls. Like the guys were so grateful that I was there and that I was their messenger. And they took it so seriously to thank me and to relay the messages and to let the attorney know that they were grateful for him. And I just realized that oftentimes that guys, we only had male clients at the time, that
Yeah.
guys in that situation have normally been dumped by their families. They don't have families coming to
Mm.
visit them. They don't have a girlfriend writing them letters. They don't
Yeah.
have anybody. So they would be very happy and grateful to see me. And that's what had me hooked. And I was like, I can stand in
Wow.
the gap for somebody who's been thrown away, whether they did it or they didn't do it, they deserve to have a zealous defense. And so that's the only thing I wanted to do. And so I ended up moving back to Chicago, which is my hometown, and because I hated DC, that I would have stayed for the job, but I hated DC. And
Right.
so I moved back home and couldn't get a job. And
Oh,
so, but I passed the bar right away. So that was nice. That was fortunate, fortunate because I surely didn't know what was going to happen. And then I ended up
wow.
working with a friend because I had worked at a law firm all throughout about half of college and all of law school. And then that firm folded right before I graduated. And so I
Mm.
ended up going off with one of those attorneys and working one-on-one with him until the public defender's office picked me up.
Wow. Wow. That's so crazy that it was the criminal law classes that kept you in law school. Because what if you had just said, no, this isn't for me, I'm done. And all those people, that you've been able to help and impact, and then the board game, and like that's so crazy. Just the power of one decision. One decision,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, because
know?
I oftentimes say, and it's not, I don't to think this for every client, but there are certain clients that I'm like, God ordained this. I'm
Mm,
supposed to be your attorney. I know for a
mm,
fact, like deep down in my gut, that there are certain clients, if they had any, no shade to any other attorney,
of
but
course.
if they had any other attorney, they would not have won that case. It was just because I was so emotionally involved, so invested, and I just know, like, I can think of some off the top of my head, like that would have gone very differently. That person would be in jail, they would be in prison, they would have
Wow.
lost their families, had anybody else, because nobody else would have gone as hard for them as I
Wow.
went for them.
That's wild. You just said something too that typically I would think that you would not want to be emotionally attached, because I think of it like in the medical field, a lot of times, shaded doctors and nurses and stuff, but a lot of times they're no longer emotionally attached. So it's just kind of like, okay, this is what it is. This is what we need to do. Move forward. Next person, next person, next person. And I would think that would be the case with an attorney, but you said you were so emotionally attached that you really gave your all, and they wouldn't have had the outcome had it not been you being that person. So how do you, oh my god, like how did you manage to get emotionally involved but yet at the same time try to keep your sanity? Like some of these cases would be so heartbreaking, and it's just like, oh. So how did you manage to do that? I think it's awesome to be able to do it, because that's the human aspect to a very difficult situation for people.
I think there are two types of lawyers when it comes to criminal defense. There are those who love the law, and there are those who love the people. And I'm certainly the latter. I've never been passionate about the law, never been one who, you know what I'm saying? I just never been so fascinated with the law. I was like, I'm gonna use the law as a tool to help my people. And so I
Mm,
had a colleague say in my presence, she said it in earshot of me. She wasn't talking to me, she was talking about me. She said, I've never seen any attorney build rapport with our clients as fast as April. And that's because I always saw whoever was in front of me as a relative, a cousin, an
wow.
auntie, a little brother. And so because of that, I could always put myself in their position and be like, there, but for the grace of God, go I. And I think that's a
Mm,
huge distinction. If you're simply
mm,
looking at it from the law books and you're not looking at the person in front of you and how their family's going to be impacted, how they're going to lose their job, how they're going to feed
yeah.
themselves, if you're not thinking about all those different things, and I'm not even saying they're just focusing on money. There are literally people who are like, I just love criminal law, or I just love the law, or I just love litigation. But if you're not looking at the person you're
Mm,
representing in that litigation and all of the aspects of their lives that are absolutely going to fall apart if you mess it up, then it's just a huge distinction. I think that's what has always set me apart. And that's how I could be emotionally involved and love on my clients, but still have some detachment. Like, but
yeah.
there's no way to not bring this work home. There isn't. There's no way, whether I leave all the files at the office or not. Pre-pandemic, I don't have an office anymore, but
Yeah.
pre-pandemic, before I
Right.
left all the about, you're still bringing it home. You're still constantly going over it in your head. How am I going to win? Or if you can't win, how am I going to get the best result for this person? What am I going to present to the judge or the prosecutor to convince them that my client is a good guy or that my client is a bad guy who deserves a second chance? Whatever,
Right. Right. Right.
whatever
Right.
it is. Yeah. So, and I think the main
Wow.
thing for me is I have never met, out of the thousands of people I have represented, I have never met anyone who I believe was soulless. I've never met anybody who I believed was inherently evil.
Mm,
I always thought that there was like a glimmer of hope, and it had, if somebody caught them earlier, or had somebody breathed life into them, had somebody spoken life over them, that they would have had a chance. And so that's how I always approach it. And that's even if somebody's looking at a very lengthy sentence. Okay, you shot
wow.
somebody on camera, you got 55 witnesses, there's nothing I can do for you. I still would approach it the same way because I don't think that that person is hopeless,
Yeah.
soulless, and I don't think that they're gone.
That's huge. That's a huge heart too, because like you said, there are those that love the law for the law's sake, just for the law itself. And it's easy to get the people out, get the person out of the picture, so to speak, and just focus on the law. That's really that's really something special. I definitely understand why you were given that accolade of that you build rapport so fast with your clients because they feel your heart, they see your heart, and that's a whole different ball game when you're in a situation like that because they're meeting you for the first time. They don't know what you're about. They don't know how you view them, and you're able to build that rapport with them right away. I can only imagine how grateful the families of those people have been, to know that you were there for their son or their daughter or whatever the situation was. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm Facebook friends with a few, and so they'll like shout me out. So one put up a
Mhm.
post last week talking about how I saved her daughter, probably going on 10 years ago now, and now her daughter is
Wow.
like this really successful chef. And
Oh,
really, if we had, and the thing is, and I had a law partner at the time, and we just did something out the box. Like this was a case we weren't gonna win. Well, we weren't sure we were going to win. So instead of going to trial, we sat down with the prosecutor and we completely showed our hand. We spread out the entire case, showed them all their weaknesses, where we thought our strengths were, and we swayed the prosecutor to go from giving this girl 3 to 7 years in prison, mandatory,
mm.
to giving her a misdemeanor with no jail time. And so, and her mom was just her mom's a single
Wow.
mom of an only child, and she just was so grateful. So, like, she just, whatever I need, she always supports me. She always pops up and she put up a post. So, and I can't reveal who my clients are. So,
Of
for her to
course.
just say, like, this was my daughter's attorney,
Right.
this is the mess my daughter got herself into, and this is one of the people who got her out, like, that always says so
Wow.
much. Like, it means a lot to see that.
Wow.
And I see people in the grocery store, they'll be like, on my birthday, it was my 50th birthday. When I didn't have a party, I went to somebody
Wait,
else's
wait,
party.
wait, 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 wait. You did not just say 50. You can't just breeze past that because you ain't looking nowhere close to 50. Are you serious?
Yeah, so this
You
past
just let
April
that
on my
roll on out. I'm like, wait, hold up.
so on my birthday, I went to this like venue. I don't know if it's considered a club or a restaurant or what. So I went to support a friend, was like, I'll have a few people meet me up there, but I really didn't want to do a party. And I walked in and the bartender was like, "Is that April?" and he was my absolute favorite client to this day. The only time I
Oh,
have ever cried in court, and that
oh,
cried because I won.
yeah.
And I was just so excited to see him. So I took a picture. I'm still friends with his sister. I sent it to his sister. No, he sent it to his sisters. They put it in a group chat and they all wrote, "Please thank April for saving our little brother's life and sending him home." This is years later.
I got
And he just,
goosebumps. Oh,
the
April.
minute that jury said not guilty, I lost it. He lost it. His
Oh,
sister was standing behind us. They all lost it. The
oh
sheriff
my
who had known
God.
me for years is like, "Girl, what is wrong with you?" I was like, this was a tough one. Like I
Oh,
knew he didn't do it, and that made it really hard. I knew he didn't do it, but there's a thing when jurors see Black defendants, they don't necessarily see what I see. Like I could look at the videotape and be like, okay, that's not you. But that doesn't mean this jury full of white jurors and jurors of different ethnicities are going to see the same thing I saw. And so they all came back and said not guilty. And I just lost it because I was like, if I had messed this up, if I had dropped the ball, this boy was going to prison for like 26 years minimum.
oh my God.
And
Oh
now he
my
was getting
God.
to, walk out the jail basically the same day. So, and that was the best part, was that was after four other attorneys thought he did it and tried to get him to plead guilty. I was the only one who believed. That's what I mean. There are cases that are meant for me, or they're worse. And
Wow.
I'm not taking any cases right now. But
Right. Wow. Oh my God. I promise you, you gave me goosebumps. You painted such a great picture. Like I could see everybody. I could see the family crying, everyone crying. That is amazing. It's so funny. It's so great to hear this side of it because a lot of times, due to media and TV shows, we just see just the criminal aspect of law in terms of either the person's guilty or innocent. They go to jail, they go to prison, or they don't. And generally, the attorneys in a lot of cases are just like boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? But to hear like the reality of it, like the real reality for you is like you really cared about your people and you did everything you could and above and beyond. Because you're right. How can you not bring it home with you? How can you not? If it really means something to you, how can you not bring that home with you mentally? So I
yeah.
get that. I get that. How long were you practicing?
So next month we'll make 25 years.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Now you just said something. We're going to segue right on into it. You said you're no longer taking clients. So
Well,
tell me.
I say that, and then I took one the other day. So right now,
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, how do you resist? You know?
I technically have three clients,
Okay.
and but see, I'm at the point I'm burnt out because of the emotional investment, and so I didn't want to get to the point where I was so out of it that I let anything fall through the cracks. So the three
Mm.
cases I have are all misdemeanors. They all have like very low stakes,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll go to trial, and the trial goes however it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all like my friends' kids. Literally, all three are my
Okay.
friends' kids. All three, my friends' kids got misdemeanors.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I didn't want to, like, when the pandemic hit, like I said, I had a law firm, I had a partner. We had been in partnership for 12 years. Our law firm folded back in June 2021.
Okay.
And I just didn't have it in me to rebuild. So I took my handful of clients, worked those cases, dissolve the I can't think of the word, resolve those, and
Mm-hmm.
then took on these last three just over the last few months or so. So, and those will get resolved soon too. But I just didn't have it in me to start from scratch. And so I actually, for a time, for about a year, was working for another firm freelance as they were doing their hair relaxer lawsuit. So there was several scientific studies came out and said hair relaxers cause cancer
I remember
in
seeing
Black
that
women.
everywhere.
Yeah, and so this was all white firm that had no Black employees, and so basically they needed a Black face to be the. It is what it is. Like they needed a
Yeah. I
Black
mean,
face
yeah.
who was an attorney to be, the face of the campaign. And so I did all their media appearances for 10 months.
Wow.
And then we parted ways quite suddenly. And so I kind of was in a position, okay, do I go rebuild my law practice from scratch, or do I go all in with the board game? And so I chose to go all in with the board game. And so now I do that full time and practice law part time.
Wow. Wow, it flipped for sure. Now let's talk
Yeah.
about this board game, because I remember you had t-shirts. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh. I remember one of the early posts that you made, and I think you had gone live on Facebook, or maybe it was a video that you had made, but you were talking about, and I never forgot it. You were talking about shut up and lawyer up. And you were specifically talking to like moms and grandmoms, and you were like, stop telling the police where your baby was last night. He couldn't have done it because he was there. And I was just like, you don't even think about that because you know what I'm talking about. But it was so funny and so true, because I'm like, yeah, the average mom and grandmother is like, that couldn't have been him because he was such and such. And little do you know, you're probably giving them the information that they want. And I was thinking, man, that's so good, because how many moms and grandmothers have been in that position thinking they're helping their child, but they're just steady. Blah, 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 blah. And when you said that, shut up and lawyer, it was on t-shirt, shut up, lawyer up. And I was like, oh my God, that's so perfect. And then you came out with a board game. So tell me how all of that came about. Like, was it just where you were doing these lives and these videos trying to give some tips and helpful tips, and it transitioned into a board game? Or just how did
Yeah.
that come about?
Yeah, so another instance of, a young person who was close to me got arrested. And that instance really stuck out because he was solely arrested because of his parents' bad advice. And what I realized is
Wow.
that is more common than you would think, is
Wow.
that either mom and dad say, "Ooh, baby, just tell the truth." And the kid thinks they're in first grade again. If I just tell the teacher the truth, I'll just get a timeout and I get to go home.
Yeah.
No, you tell the truth, and depending on what your action was, you're going to jail, you're going to prison for a very long time.
Wow.
Or, like you said, you might say too much and end up talking yourself into a crime that you really had nothing to do with. But you got to remember, because when police get called to a scene or they start an investigation, they don't have all the information. They have some information. And so they're putting pieces of a puzzle together. And if you
Hmm.
tell them something that sounds interesting, they might make it a piece of their puzzle, whether it really fits or not. And so a
Wow.
lot of teens, especially, start running their mouths. In fact, 86% of people who were wrongfully convicted,
Hmm.
who were arrested at the age of 14 or under and were
Oh,
later
God.
exonerated, falsely confessed. So 86% of these babies, 14 and under, all ran their mouths, said they did something that they didn't do, and then went to prison for it, only for years later to be like they really didn't do it.
Wait, wait, wait. I'm trying to wrap my brain around 14 and under. I thought you were going to say
Oh.
14 and above. And even
Mm.
14 was just like, when you said that, it was just like 14. But then you said 14 and under?
Most states have no minimum age for arrest. My youngest
Oh
client
my God.
here was 6.
What?
There's no minimum age. Now, some states will have a minimum age about when they can be detained in a facility, but there's no minimum age for arrest. Like, we had a very famous case here. It was before I started practicing law. There was a young girl who was found dead. 2 boys found the body. I think they were 7 and 8. They were 7 and 8. They
Mhm.
found the body. So, like curious young boys do, they pick up a stick. They like, is she moving? Hitting her with the stick, hitting her with rocks. Then they run off. So police deduced that these 2 7 and 8-year-olds killed her and raped her. Now, the
Oh,
average
oh
human
my
and
God.
adult would know that a 7-year-old can't rape anybody, right?
Right.
So, but they hold these kids, they interrogate them and end up charged. It was national news, probably
Yeah.
international news. Only for it to come out, I don't know if it was weeks later or months later, that this 7 and 8-year-old simply found the body. They had nothing to do with it. And it was a known sex offender in the area who had raped and killed this girl. Now
Oh my
imagine the trauma to this 7 and 8-year-old who are taken away from mommy and daddy, who are interrogated by grown men they don't
Oh
know, who are
my
told
God.
over and over and over, "We know you did it. We know it was you. We know you're the one." And all they doing is crying.
Yeah.
And And then they admit, yeah, well, I hit her with the stick. Yeah, I hit her with the rod. And yeah, you did more than that. You pinned her down. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Right,
and
right.
so yeah, it
Oh,
spirals out of control. And so this happens all across the United States.
oh my
But
God.
parents don't prepare their 7 and 8-year-old to, because they're told there's officer friendly. Go find officer friendly when you
Right.
need to.
And now,
Tell
yeah, and
officer
they're in
friendly
all
to
the
school.
schools. Right. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah. But there's
Oh,
no
that's
minimum age
just,
in most states.
that blows my mind. That blows my mind. When I think I've heard it all,
Mhm.
clearly I haven't. Because I honestly never even thought that a 6, 7, 8-year-old could even get arrested. They could do things to get in trouble, of course, but I just never thought of like an actual physical arrest and to be charged. The idea that a 6 or 7 and 8-year-old could be charged with that type of crime and they're really trying to make it stick. Like, that's insane. That's
Yeah, there's
insane.
Google. There's a girl named Kaya Rowe,
Mm-hmm.
Rowe, out of
Mm-hmm.
Florida.
Mm-hmm.
She was 6 years old. She was in school. She had sleep apnea, so she was cranky the next morning because she didn't sleep well the night before. So she threw a tantrum, like many 6-year-olds do.
Right.
Rather than putting her in timeout or whatever teachers do when you have a tantrum, they send her to the principal's office. Principal's a black woman. This is a little black girl. She's crying and crying. When she gets to the principal's office, the principal then calls the school police officer and says, "You have to go with him." She is having a fit. She's like, "No, no, I won't be bad in again. I'll be good. I'll be good. Please, please don't make me go." He proceeds to put her hands behind her back as though she's going to be handcuffed, but he doesn't have handcuffs that small for her wrist. So he zip ties her, I say, like a hostage, marches her off. She's screaming the entire, it's all on video, screaming the entire time. No, 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 no. They don't call her. She lives with her grandma. They don't call her grandma. And they take her to the detention center. Eventually,
Oh
the case is
God.
dismissed. Her
Oh my
grandmother
God.
raises hell, goes to the state legislature, and gets a law passed to raise the minimum age in Florida. There was no minimum age, to raise the minimum age in Florida for so no other child to go through this. Now, remember, this baby was 6.
Right.
They passed the law, they raised the age to 7.
Oh my God. Girl,
This is
the
the insanity.
insanity,
Yes,
the
yes.
insanity, and what that child has gone through, and what it's going to take to help her work through all of that. She'll be processing that for the rest of her life, at least throughout these formative years. She needs therapy. The principal needs to be
Absolutely.
fired. Like, oh my God, and the police officer, like, come on, come
And that's why
on.
other countries laugh at us, because they're like, the way we treat our children
Oh,
is appalling. And this, you don't see this in other countries. This isn't
mm-mm.
even a topic in other countries.
To be like, whew, and I got grandkids around them ages, so my brain is just, and it's just like that's appalling. It's not okay. I didn't even
No.
realize that. That's insane. So was it cases like this and stories like this that led you to the board game for young adults, for young kids?
Yeah, it was that, and then just
Just
seeing
seeing
that
that.
teenagers and young adults didn't have any more information than the 6-year-olds did. And that what parents teach at home oftentimes made it worse. So I wanted to have a set of rules that people would follow whenever they were stopped by police. Because a lot of times we base things on the personality. If the officer's nice, I'm going to cooperate. I'm going to talk. I'm going to tell him everything he needs because he's going to let me
Mm,
go. And if he's mean, I'm going to be a jerk back to him because he shouldn't talk to me like that and he's disrespecting me. That's not the way to go about it. You need to behave the same in every instance. So I have set rules, 7 rules that I
mhm.
teach, and it gets reiterated in the game in the form of 54 different real life scenarios, because people need to see why you're telling them to do something. They need to see how it plays out when they go in the opposite direction. Like, oh, I ran on this cart, the officer tackled me, and I got arrested. Okay, that's bad. Maybe if I stand still and I don't run, it goes differently. And so
Right.
they're finding out how their behavior can land them in different situations. And so instantly, once they're done playing the game, if they happen to get arrested the next day or the next year, they know what to do and what not to do.
I love that. I love that. I love the whole concept and the idea because it was just things that we just don't think of. And you're so right when you said, parents giving the wrong information because when I grew up, it was officer friendly. The police officer was the friendly police officer, and from what I saw. And, if they drove around in the neighborhood, it wasn't like, oh my God, you run from the police, they would wave, sometimes, if kids were outside playing, they would stop and play, it was just a different thing, so we do give them misinformation. And then now in today's climate, it's like it almost feels like parents may not know what information to give their kids because in some instances it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. You know what I mean? But how to prepare these kids, for things like this, because there's another part of me that I wonder if there's people that would think, well, I don't necessarily need this board game because my children aren't going to be in a situation to where they could be arrested. My children are raised this way, that way. They live in this neighborhood. They go to that school. This is their group of friends. They don't even put themselves in situations where they could quote unquote be, arrested or be questioned by a police officer. So what do you say to those parents and those families?
Yeah, I actually get that a lot. And I tell them, well, I was one of those kids. I grew up middle class, two-parent household on a street full of two-parent households, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been in private school every day of my life, never set foot in a public school unless I was visiting my mom, who was a public school teacher.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
yet I still got arrested at 13 in a college prep program. I was on a college campus at 13 with my other little bougie friends who decided to go into a part of the campus that was off limits. It had underground tunnels. And of course, you hear a kid in the city, there are tunnels. Well, we got to check that out. So I wasn't interested, but they were. And I didn't want to leave the group because we lived a long way away and I wasn't going to go home by myself. So
Yeah.
I followed these dummies into the tunnels the whole time, trying to redirect them, trying to get them to go back. Come, please, can we go back? And then all of a sudden I hear footsteps and it's the popo, it's the police. They're on our trail. So all these good kids from private school, every one of us, private schools, two-parent
Wow.
households,
Right,
two
right.
cars in the driveway, A students, all of us, all 7 of us got our little tails rounded up by the police, marched in a single file line because they didn't even have enough handcuffs for all of us, and marched to the police station. And at the police
Wow.
station, it was another friend who's same age as me, whose mama was a lawyer. He
Right.
jumped up and says, nobody says anything. We all want a lawyer. I didn't even know that's something you could ask for because nobody has ever prepared me to be in a
Right.
situation where
Right.
I'm stopped by police.
Wow.
So we sit there for 3 hours in absolute complete silence. They pick us off one by one, try to talk to us individually. Nobody will talk. And after 3 hours, they let us go. So that's the story I tell to those parents. I
Wow.
was a good kid. I was the A student. I was always college bound. That was never a question. My mama was a teacher. My daddy was a social worker. Like I came from a good background. I had never been
Right.
in trouble a day in my life, had never had detention, nothing,
Right.
never been suspended. And here I am in a situation. And so their kids can very easily fall into a situation like that. And if it doesn't happen in elementary school or high school, it will certainly happen in college. Why? They're meeting new people who you don't know. They got a
Mm.
new boyfriend who you ain't never met.
Mm.
They develop this new little like family or network and they go on road trips. And so they're driving through hick
Mm.
towns from their school. Their school might be in a major city. You might live in a major city, but guess what? Everything in between is a hick town. And somebody's got to stop for gas. Somebody's going to get a flat. Somebody's going to be speeding. And guess what? Somebody's going to have pills in their car. They're going to have a gun under the seat. They're going to have some weed. And you're going to be driving through some state where weed is illegal. So these are the situations that parents need to prepare their kids for, even the good kids, even the kids who
Yeah.
are in all these little bougie preppy groups and all the college prep programs. They still need to be prepared because you have absolutely no idea when and where they're going to encounter police. And it does not matter if they're up to something. And I get that a lot too. People never ask me about girls. And I'm like, who do you think is riding shotgun when the boyfriend gets in trouble? Who do you think the boyfriend hands the gun to? Who do you think is holding the pills? Who do you think is is his Bonnie to his Clyde.
Right.
When
His
he gets
ride or
stopped by
die.
police. Absolutely. So they can be delusional and they can think it's never going to happen to their kid until it
Right.
does. And so-called good kids have the most to lose. They will lose that college scholarship. They will lose that college admission. They will get kicked out of their little prep school, all from one arrest, whether they can get convicted or not.
Woo, girl. That's so true. Like I'm thinking about my friends, like, okay, they need to get your board game because yeah, like that is really real, especially well, I want to say especially today, but like it's needed, it's been needed, it's been happening. It's just that now we're able to, due to social media, we're able to see more of what's happening out there. That's insane. So tell me what it was like. Like, how did you obviously you saw the need for a board game, and then I think to put it in the form of a board game was genius, to get kids to want to get involved and want to do it because they're not going to sit for a lecture about it, but to be able to play a game that they can enjoy with their friends and learn something, I think is genius. How difficult or how easy was it to put this board game together and to get it out there to the market? It just happened overnight, didn't it? It was a piece of cake, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was all a process because I didn't know anything about board games. This is just, I just woke up one day and it was on my heart because I had been doing the videos and I was like on Facebook, I'm talking to my peers. I'm not talking to their kids, the young adults and the teenagers who are actually committing the crimes in groups, especially in groups. So I was just like, I just woke up one day. God told me it should be a board game. So I started drawing out the board game, like the squares. I had made board games before out of like construction paper and stuff for friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew that there were instances you could not playing well and end up in a loop where you can't get out of it. And so I knew to look out for
Right.
that. And so I played around with that. I contacted a friend who was an artist and I had the squares like mapped out and he cleaned that up some and I asked him to draw the figures. So he worked on the figures, I worked on the structure of the board game itself, and then I started working on the scenarios in the cards because I knew that that was the most important part of the card and the most important part of the game was
Mm-hmm.
these stories so that the kids could know different situations that they could the land in. And so I started working on those. He's working on the characters. We met up a few times. I veto whatever he did. He tweaked it, and we came to an agreement, and then created a prototype. And I knew that I had to test the prototype before I launched it to the marketplace because it's one thing to think you have a good idea, but kids might say, "Oh no, it's boring," or "I don't like it," or "It's I didn't have a good time," or "I don't understand."
Yeah.
And so I tested it on 300 students in Chicago, or in the
Wow.
Chicagoland area, Black, Mexican specifically, and
Mhm.
white. And after they each played for 25 minutes, after the 25 minutes, they would fill out a survey. What did you like? What would you change? What did you not like? What did you learn?
Mm.
And I implemented every single one of their suggestions in the final product. So
Wow.
by then, I knew it was something that kids loved. I had been able to watch them play. I had been able to watch them get engrossed in the stories, to joke, to throw cards at each other, to steal the dice and try to cheat and all these different things. And then I was
Mhm.
able to get all the takeaways to see what wasn't clear. Like initially, it wasn't clear that there were 7 rules of police encounters. Like some of that, they would walk away with some, but it wasn't so clear. So I fleshed that out. The cars were too long because at least here, I found that a lot of high school students read on about a 5th grade reading level. So the text was too long. So I had to shorten
Ooh.
those. So there are all these tweaks that I made based on what I was able to observe and what these kids told me. And so when I released the final product, I knew that it was fun. I knew
Mhm.
that it was something that kids not just liked, but loved. And
Mhm.
I still, when I go speak, I always start with the board game and I always have them play 25 minutes. And it never fails. At the end of the 25 minutes, they never want to stop playing. They always want to
That's
know
awesome.
what they want to keep reading the stories. And or they'll
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, I'm so close to finishing. I'm so close to the finish line. I want to
Yeah,
win. I
yeah.
want to win." They
Yeah.
never want to stop. And I was like, "Okay, that's success when they don't want to stop." And then I always ask them, "What surprised you about the game and what did you learn?"
Mm,
And they always say this is real life,
mhm.
that it's easy to get in trouble and lose everything. And then when I ask them what they learned, they're always able to quickly say, shut up, lawyer up. Do not talk to police. That's always the very first thing they say. Don't talk to police. They'll tell me other things they learned, but the 7 rules became a lot more clear after I did the market research.
Oh, that
And
was
then
genius.
and then in the meantime, all this is going on. I'm still researching. Am I going to do this all piecemeal? Like, am I going to get one manufacturer to manufacture the box? Am I going to get one to manufacture the
Oh,
board? Am I going to get one to
wow.
manufacture the pieces? And I'm talking to another guy who's a few steps ahead of me. And we're all talking about these different manufacturers and what we're going to do. And I found it was cheaper to do it all together, to have it all still made in China, because that's where most board games are made.
Hmm.
And then to factor in the shipping times, and it was all a learning curve. Like I only knew one other person who I met along could kind of mentor me, but he
Uh-huh.
was only about 6 months ahead of me. So it was literally like, we
Yeah,
all figured it out together. So it
right.
was a process. And then trying to raise the seed money to be able to manufacture the first batch and then putting the money back in to manufacture the second batch, then figuring out, okay, once I've exhausted my friends and family, who am I going to market to? How am I going to market? So it's been an entire journey for the last 5 years of me just, and I was doing it part-time because I was still practicing law full-time.
Right.
So, oh, and by the way, I was taking care of my mother who needed 24 hours, 7 day a week
That's
care.
right.
And she got sick the day after I received the prototype in the mail. That was the last conversation we had when she was well, was she
Wow.
saw the prototype, and she was a elementary school teacher for 40 years. So she was absolutely enthralled,
I
and she
was
was
gonna
singing,
say,
oh,
oh,
like she
oh,
just loved the whole concept of an
right.
educational game. And so I'm doing all of this while she's in hospitals and I'm sleeping in
Mhm.
ICUs and I'm trying to, I mean, it was a whole production. And then I
Wow.
lost her in the process, 15 months
Yeah, I'm
in.
so
But I'm
sorry. I
still, I
remember.
remember we were in the ER because she go in and out the hospital, and she was in the ER. And that was the first time I was on ABC News here. We were watching my ABC clip from the ER.
Oh my gosh.
My
Oh
mom,
my
dad,
gosh.
all looking up, watching ABC while we waiting for the doctor to come tend to her.
Oh my gosh. I am so sorry that she passed. I remember when you were going through that, and it's just, and I know it's difficult as that time must have been, but I can't even imagine, or I can't imagine being a mom, how proud she must have been to see you do this, and then to see other people give you that recognition for what you were doing, and that it was helping children. Like you said, she'd been in education for 40 years. So, oh my gosh. Oh, the good girl. I got goosebumps again. Like, oh my God, just give me all the feels. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so this
I
is all
love
her
it.
legacy. This is all where all my training and education and experience
Yeah.
meet all her education and experience. And so that's so I'm very
Yeah.
proud of that. And yes.
Rightfully so. So, how did you make the decision to flip it to where you're full-time board game and part-time lawyer? Like, I was speaking with someone just yesterday, a good friend of mine, and she was telling me about some friends of hers that she knows that are, they're in the medical profession, they're doctors and surgeons and, just different professions that we consider like, hey, that's some money making professions and prestiges and all of that, but they don't like their careers and they want to get out of it, but most people are fearful to walk away rather from, a regular paycheck and the prestige, and people know you as being that person that's the attorney, or in their case is the doctor. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, well, for most people, change is very hard. People are afraid to change. They're afraid. They feel like, I'm too old, or I've done this for so long, and I'm used to this regular paycheck. I know what to do on my job. I just do it. I come home and that's it. You know what I mean? They're afraid to make those kind of changes, especially big changes like that. So, how did you come to that conclusion? Why did you do it? And how did you keep your sanity when you were making that transition, and where are you at now with it? All of that in one.
So it's been exactly 1 year since I went. I think it was like yeah, it was like September 30th, for May, exactly 1 year that I've been full time.
Nice.
And what helped was that I have never had a job in the last 18 years. I have been self-employed as a lawyer since 2006. And so either way, I was going to have to hunt what I ate. Either way, either it
Mm,
was going to be I
mm,
have to go find clients and rebuild this law firm from scratch. I mean, I can get those calls, so that wouldn't be so hard, but
right.
it's not steady income, right? I would
Hmm.
still have to, and then I would put all kind of things in place to build a law firm up from scratch. So either way, I was gonna have to hunt what I eat. And so I figured like I'm gonna have fun doing it. For me, that was no longer fun. It became a blessing that this other law firm cut me loose from doing their PR stuff, because that was like a fun year break that I
Hmm.
got to do that. I got to be on TV. I got to speak to large crowds. I got to speak at the Black Women's Expo here, and I
Nice.
was helping Black women. But then when that suddenly ended, and I do mean suddenly, when
Mm,
that when that suddenly ended,
mm,
I was kind of forced to figure it out. I still had a handful of clients, and so
hmm.
I was like, okay, and some are paying, and some are unemployed, and some ain't paid in a long time. So
Hmm.
that wasn't going to sustain me. And I was like, well, I have this money maker. And like you mentioned, we were in a network marketing company. And so for the 7 years that I went hard at that, and we both know I went hard at
You
that,
sure did. You sure did.
I was like, I was building that person's brand.
Yep.
And I learned lots and lots there. But now we're going to turn it and we're going to build April's brand. And
Love
that's
it.
what I figured too. When I did that year where I was helping that other law firm and promoting the lawsuit, even though I was doing good and I was helping Black women, I still was promoting somebody else's brand. And so
Yeah.
I was like, it's time to focus on what I've built part time and I know can bless and change and save people's lives. It can absolutely throw a monkey wrench in this school to prison pipeline. I got to go
Ooh,
hard at that. Like I owe it to
yeah.
myself and I owe it to these babies out here, because every time I go into a room, and that's the best thing about doing these workshops, I get to see the kids play. Like I don't have to hear about it. I don't have to wait for somebody to give me a review. I
Yeah.
see it real time. I see how loud and rowdy the whole room gets all of a sudden. And so I'm like, I see it transform lives. I see kids come back to me, Miss April, I played your game, and 2 days later, I got stopped by the police. And I know I would have popped off at the mouth had I not met you. I know I would have been arrested, but I
Right.
moved differently. I made different decisions because of you. To know that,
Ah,
then I owe it to myself. And so I'll deal with the up and down in income.
right.
The biggest struggle right now is I rely, and I got to change this. So anybody listening, you got a suggestion for me, let me know. I rely almost 90% of my sales come from Facebook ads, from Meta ads, Facebook and Instagram ads. But they cost so much money.
Wow.
So I'm just trying to figure that out right now. But aside from that, I love it. I love the speaking engagements. I love teenagers. They are so funny to me. I have
They
such
are.
a ball. And give me the snarky one with the worst attitude, and we're gonna be besties after 45 minutes.
Right.
So I absolutely love it. I know the power of the game, even
Yeah.
when others are like, oh, why is it a board game? Why isn't it a video game? Why isn't it an app? Why isn't it, I'm like, because the power is in the interaction between one kid and another that you're not going to
Hmm.
get with a device standing in between you. So
Hmm.
I know the power
Hmm.
of it. And I'm just like, so I owe it to myself to fight for this concept, to get it in as many hands as possible,
Hmm.
for as long as I possibly can. So that's what, but yeah, it's definitely feast famine, up and down. I
Yeah.
might get a big contract with a school, or I might get a big contract I have a contract with the public defender's office. I might get community partnerships like that pay off. I have a great community partner for the last 3 summers, the
Hmm.
Darren B. Easterling Center for Restorative Practices. She has gotten a grant. She has written me into the grant, paid me, bought 150 games, and then together we find the different organizations that serve Black boys, and I
Hmm.
go in and do my presentations. So
Wow.
things like that come along, but they're not consistent. And so that's what I have
Yes.
to smooth out, make it more consistent. But I'm certain I'll never be homeless. My stomach is full every day. The
Yeah,
lights are still on, so I guess I'm doing all right.
exactly. Oh, I love it. I love it. I just think, man, it's like you've blown my mind, first of all, talking about, these 7, 8-year-old kids, that are being questioned and arrested, and then the 6-year-old girl. And it's like, it really is something that honestly every community needs. Black, white, Mexican, Hispanic, like every community needs, because for all the reasons you just said, when they even go off to college and they're in their own groups and they're away from their parents, and it's just like, and people need to know, like they need to know this. The parents need to know.
Everybody assumes it's for at-risk Black kids. It's not. It's not, because I'm just like, any adult doesn't know this. You could be a white male from Nebraska. You don't know this stuff either.
Right, because
And
I know
that's
I
what
didn't know
happens.
half of what it was. And I was just like, what? Because you talked about one time, it was, I think you gave the scenario of like a group of kids going to McDonald's, and one of the kids, takes the fries without paying for them or something. It was, and this was a while back, and it was just a group setting that blew my mind. Because it's one thing to say, okay, you tell your child, okay, you teach them from whatever age, you don't steal, you don't take things that don't belong to you, no matter what it is. And that's one thing to say that on an individual basis. But like you said, when you were 13 years old and here you're on a group, y'all are in the tunnel, everybody gets arrested. And when you're hanging out with your friends, there's always that one, not always, but sometimes there's that one that just does something a little wonky, and now everybody else is dealing with it. There's countless stories of people being with someone that they thought was their friend, and they go off and do something crazy, and now they're suffering the consequences of it. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I like about your board game too, when I think about these kids playing, in community centers or at schools, because they're going back home and having these conversations with their family, their cousins, their aunts, their uncles. And the conversations, I would imagine, just come up randomly. And it's like, oh no, you shouldn't. I can hear it now. It's like, oh no, you shouldn't do this, you should do that. And that's a whole nother conversation that's helping to educate the families. That's
Yeah, I'm
amazing.
creating little ambassadors. That's my whole goal, is I create kids who can go and advise their parents, they can go and advise their peers. Because like you said,
Oh.
most kids, most crimes in that age group are committed by groups. And so I
Mm.
have a new rule when I do these workshops. I just started this summer. Um, when I tell them, oh, hi, I'm Miss April, I'm a lawyer, who can tell me what a criminal defense lawyer does? And then I say, okay, you got 25 minutes to play this game. I said, the only rule is you can't ask me any questions. And they all like, what? You can't ask me any questions. And then the adults in the room are like, well, you don't want to tell them more. You don't want to explain to them how to play the game. I'm like, they got a book of instructions. They need to figure it out. And then I'll
Right.
ask them after the 25 minutes, why did I tell you you couldn't ask me any questions? And they'll be like, because we had to figure it out ourselves. And I explain to them, if you are in a car with your friends, if you are walking into a store with your friends, if you are walking down the alley with your friends and you get arrested, y'all got to figure it out. I'm not going to be there next to you. Like I said, if kids can make bad decisions as a group, you group think when you go into
Mm.
these, you commit these crimes. It's usually one bad actor, and everybody either freezes or they decide to participate. That's it. Those are the two options, because
Mm.
rarely do they leave. And so if you can make bad decisions together, you can certainly reverse engineer that and make great decisions together. And I always tell them
Right.
that. But I'm like, I can't hold your hand. No adult here can hold your hand, because when you all go get in trouble, no adult's going to be around except for that police officer.
And he's
And what
definitely
they
not
don't
there to help
realize
them in most
is
cases.
that one bad actor, they will all be responsible for their actions. So if there's one kid, and these crimes aren't planned in advance usually, it's
Right.
usually impromptu. We see a kid from school we don't like. We think it'll be funny to go rough him up. One person runs ahead, starts kicking him. Two more jump in and start punching him. One starts filming, and then his cell phone falls out his pocket. Somebody grabs it, and we take off running. We didn't plan this out,
Right.
but now
Right.
we all gonna be charged with robbery because you all played a role. And then, God forbid, somebody pulls out a gun that nobody knew they had, whether they fired it or not, you're all responsible for that person having that gun, even though you didn't know he had it. And so you're all going to be charged with the same thing. And that's what's hard to explain to parents. They'll be like, well, all my kid did was take the phone. Why isn't he just charged with theft? No, no, no. You add up all those actions together, and that's what your kid is charged with. The
Yeah.
kids don't get it, the adults don't get it. And then when they start looking at these very lengthy prison sentences as a result, what do you mean my 16-year-old is getting charged as an adult? What do you mean my 16-year-old is looking at 26 years on the bottom? Yes, ma'am. Your 16-year-old was part of a group of people. They're all charged with attempt murder and robbery and this and that. And he's not charged for his single actions. He's charged for everybody's
The whole
actions.
thing. Yeah, that is so true. I know of two people right now. One is, I don't know if he's still in prison now or not, but I know he had to do a minimum of 19 years, and I think he was arrested at the age of 15, if I'm not mistaken, 15 or 16, behind being with a friend who robbed, and there was a murder involved, like the whole. And when I tell you, this kid, there's those kids that, just like when you hear of some horrible serial killer living next door to you that was boiling people in the basement, you didn't know because, oh, he was so nice, he was such a friendly neighbor, you know what I mean? And then come to find out it was, something else going on. And this kid was just like literally, like, just one of the best people you'd ever want to meet, personality wise, everything. And had a friend that he was trying to help his friend, get on the up and up, just trying to, man, let's just kind of, and the family had taken his kid in and everything, trying to help him, and come to find out he was beyond help at that point, and he got himself caught up. They went to a store, robbed the store. The plan wasn't to rob the store. The guy had the gun. He didn't know the guy had the gun. The whole scenario, what you just said. And he did a minimum of 19 years. He might be coming up on his 19 years. Another friend, years and years ago, when I was in college, track star, for the university, just doing his thing, and well liked, and was driving a car. A friend of his said, hey, he got fired from this job, and he said, hey, I need to go pick up my last check. Will you take me over there to pick up the last check? He picked up the last check. The guy is sitting out in the car. He's got his music banging while he's waiting for his friend to come out. Little did he know, his friend is in there shooting up the place and killed a couple of people. He runs out, gets in the car, says, hey, take off, gotta go, because he took off. He ended up doing, like, lost his career, lost scholarship, everything. He ended up going to prison. And I forgot now how many years, but he was in there for a minute. It wasn't like a couple of years. Like, he lost everything. He was 18 years old.
He was a getaway driver. And that's what people don't get. They'd be like, but I didn't know. And I didn't. But the thing is when you did know, what did you do?
Yeah.
Did you jump out the car and run away? Did you
Right.
go in and check on the victims? Did you go to go grab your cell phone and call the police? You didn't do any of that either. You instead went with that boy to get pizza. Y'all kept texting back and forth. You hung out the next 3, 4, 6 days until the police came and got you. That's what people don't understand. They don't know how to extricate themselves from that situation.
Yeah.
Once it goes bad, you have a split second to make the right choice. And people continue to make the wrong choice. And then they don't want to be accountable for any of that when they get caught. It wasn't just that you were sitting there banging your music and things went left. No, it's what did you do next when you realized happening.
Exactly. And that's what it was too, if I remember correctly, that, because I mean, this was over 30 years ago, and it was like you drove off with him in the car, and he had the gun and the blood and all of that. It's like you drove off, and they considered him the getaway driver, and he lost everything, and it's just like these instances happen, so often. And I'm so glad about your board game. How can we get it? How can I get another one? Because I want to buy another one now. I'm like, I need to get another one since I gave that one away. But how can we get it?
Website. It's called, so the name of the game is Trials and Triumph, but the website you go to is called theonlygameyouneed.com. Theonlygameyouneed.com. .com. And I did that because most people mess up the name and they can't spell triumph, or they write trails instead of trials. And so I made it
Mm.
super easy for people to remember. The only game you need .com.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Because I want to get another one myself. And now, I'm thinking about my grandkids and just, and just actually, I'm thinking about several other people too that I know I need to call. It's like, listen, we need to get this game. They've got teenagers and, we just need to be prepared. And if we can do it in the form of a game, then I think that's the best. That's the best ever. Because now let me ask you this to kind of switch gears a little bit, because we're gonna also put that, I'm gonna also put that in our notes and stuff when I post it, so that everybody knows how to get to it. How do you take care of you? Because you take care of so many people. I've always known you to take care of people. When we were in the same network marketing company, you were taking care of people when it was an event happening. Oh, I think she froze, y'all. I think she froze. What a great picture though, right? What a great smile to freeze on. Let's see if we can get her back. Or maybe I froze. No, I think she froze. We're going to see if she can pop back in here. Hopefully.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. I was like, oh, she froze or I froze, one of the two.
Yeah, I was just texting you that you froze, and then
And I
you
was
came
just going
back.
to text you. It must have been me. Yeah, I don't know what. Sometimes that happens, but we just gonna make it do what it do. It's all right.
Okay.
But yeah, how do you take care of you? Because as I was saying before, I froze, that I've always known you to take care of others. And when we were in the network marketing company, when there was an event that was happening, you were one of the ones that were putting things together, making sure, everything was going right, whether it was at someone's house or it was an event, that we were doing in a different place. You were always there taking care of everything and everyone, and I've always known you to do that. You just talked about, taking care of your mom, of course, and now, you were taking care of your clients. You still take care of your clients, but now more so with a board game. So what do you do to take care of you?
One thing I do is I run. And so I've been running since I graduated. No, nope, since my first year of law school. That's something I picked up. So I started working out seriously my first year of law school because I had gained a little freshman 15 as in college and never lost it for the next 3 years. And so I was determined to lose it my first year of law school. And so I just started going to the gym, accidentally became an aerobics instructor. That's a whole other story for another day. And then I started running. I would run once a week. And when I moved home to Chicago after school, I kept running and I like to run outside. And so here we have Lake Michigan. So I run along the lakefront. And
Mhm.
then we have this set of stairs. It's 300 stairs. It's like goes up into the sky in the middle of the woods. And so I
Wow.
do that a couple times a week. I'll do like 5 or 6 times around the
Wow.
stairs. And so I have to watch my weight. And this is how I do it, is through exercising. But the flip side, the other thing that it does is whenever I have a workout routine, everything else kind of falls in line, because that means I have to go
Mm.
to bed by a certain time. I have to eat a certain way. I can't eat like greasy or heavy foods because then my run will suck, or I'll
Mm.
oversleep. So I have to increase my water intake if I'm going to be running because I'm going to be sweating so much. So by having a workout routine, it moderates a lot of other things in my life and just kind of
Mm.
helps things fall into place. And so every summer since I was 22, I run all summer long. One year during the pandemic, I think it was 2021, I ran year long, which you can imagine could be hard in Chicago when
Right.
it's so if it wasn't below zero, I was out there. But like if it was in the 20s or above, I was out there running every other day. I don't ever run 2 days in a row. I don't have it in me. And
Mhm.
so I run, and that is how I stay sane. I run with no music, and I run by myself because that's
Mm.
my moving meditation. That's when I work through problems. That's when I say affirmations. That's when I have my spiritual practice. And so that makes all the difference for me. And that's what I do to take care of myself. I also love massages. I used to get them once a week pre-pandemic because I had a chiropractor and it was like $25 to give me a massage. So I go see the chiropractor and get a massage.
Right.
Now I
Nice.
do maybe once a month. And so those are the two things that I do regularly. Like I'm not even into nails. If you see my nails, look at my nails. I need to get my nails done right now. So
But
I'm
mine,
not
I
into
have
like,
a,
yeah, I'm not into nails or getting my toes done. I do those like if it occurs to me or I have an event coming up, I'll do those. But
yeah,
I don't
me.
see that as self-care for me. For me, it's massages and working out.
I love that. That's important. I love what you just said too, that when you the exercise, it regulates the rest of your life. Like you said, you got to go to bed to a certain time, you got to eat, and the way you do anything is the way you do everything, and I can see how that just really falls into place. I'm just starting again another exercise routine, incorporating more exercise. And I'm not one to get out and run. Like I love to walk. Like I can walk because I live like midtown, and so I'm close to downtown, and I can literally go down there. The problem though is when I walk downtown, it's all kinds of restaurants and cute little things, and it's like I think I kind of defeated the purpose of walking down here as I'm sitting here eating, because there's so many. Like Little Rock is just downtown is just a bomb. I love it. It's so cute, so cute. So many things down there. But I just got myself like a little mini treadmill. And I'm like, I'm usually on YouTube. I'm usually doing something like that. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just start with that, because of almost kind of like the same thing. Because when you do incorporate some kind of exercise, it is hard, except for when I walk downtown. It's hard to just eat anything. You know what I mean? And it's hard to stay up late at night because you've got to do this the next day and it's going to affect you. So I love that because I was curious. I was like, how do you take care of yourself, and give back to yourself? Because it's a lot, it's a lot with that, regardless what anyone is doing, it's a lot going on, and trying to keep your sanity above it all. A good friend of mine yesterday, we were talking about that. It's like there's so much happening in the world that like I got so caught up. Obviously, we're in the what is it called? I unplugged from it. So now the the presidential
Yeah.
elections, I've
Hmm.
unplugged from it, but I was so plugged into everything because I haven't watched the news in years. But with everything happening, I downloaded like the CNN app and the MSNBC, and I was like, oh, I want to stay on top of this. I want to, da, 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 da. And it was so overwhelming because of the notifications. I was like, you know what? I'm going to decide what I'm going to do for this election, and I don't need all of this stuff. So I just literally delete, 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 and just started actually paying a little bit more attention to the local candidates because I'm like, I'm so focused on this. And at the end of the day, you know, that's not going to change what's happening in my household. It's like I need to see what's going on with the local candidates. So I went to an event yesterday, our Dunbar Community Center, and they had a great event. And I got the chance to hear from two candidates that I wouldn't have heard from if had I not gone to that and got to hear, a part of their message and stuff. But I did, I had to just kind of unplug from all of that because there's so much happening, between social media stuff and Diddy and Duty
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everybody else, and then and then of course what's happening internationally. It's just like, whoa, you got to take care of yourself and your mental, you know, and that's really really important. So I was wanting to ask you, I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing for you? So let me ask you this: what's next? What's next for Miss April?
What's next is so I'm a finalist in the Black Ambition $1
Yes.
million small business competition. And this is sponsored by music mogul Pharrell Williams. And there were 3,000 applicants that got whittled down to 250 semifinalists. And I found out this past Monday that actually you might know Nyana. Nyana texted me because I didn't even know I hadn't seen the email. She's like, congratulations. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right,
So
right.
I I am a finalist. So there are 40 of us who are finalists. and we find out a week from tomorrow, we do our like introductory call to find out what's involved. So it
Uh,
culminates in a pitch competition of the top 8 businesses. So between now and then, they're going to assign each of us a pitch coach.
mm-hmm,
I guess we'll have sessions to practice with other businesses. And
mm-hmm.
then based on that, they will whittle it down to 25 top businesses. And every one of those 25 businesses walks away with something. So the lowest they could get is 25,000. The highest aside from the top prize is 250,000. So either way, it's like life-changing money for your business if you're in the
Either
top
way.
25. The top 8 then go on to compete for the $1 million. And so right now what we're doing is a voting competition for the most, I forget what they call it, it's basically the most popular business. The most
Uh-huh.
popular business, so aside from all those other designations, the most popular business will walk away with $25,000. So whether they're in the top 25, whether they're in the top 8, doesn't matter. They will get
Whoa.
$25,000. So we're doing a voting competition now. As far as I can tell, the voting is blind because I keep trying to see how many votes I have and how many votes other people have. And I can't see any. Maybe I just don't know how to do it, but I can't see it. So I'm just going all
Oh,
out, telling people to vote. I created
yes.
a link and it's vote for the number 4, vote for justice, JUSTUS.com. And I say I spell justice differently because there's a saying there is no justice, there's just us. So it's vote for
Yes.
justice, JUSTUS.com.
Okay, we need to definitely do that. I didn't know about that, so we
Oh, you
definitely
didn't? Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
know
I just
about the
found that out.
voting. I knew because you told me about, what was this because that's amazing. 3,000 down to 40. That's
Yeah.
that in itself. Like you've already won. You know what I mean? Because that's a
Yeah.
big deal. You know what I mean? But to be a part of this, but I didn't know that there was a voting involved. So we're definitely going to do that. We're definitely going to do that. We're going to put that out there too. Congratulations. Like, how did you feel when you
Yeah.
find that out? Especially since you didn't even know. Like,
I
that's
didn't, I was
awesome.
working out when they sent the email out. I was doing the stairs I just told you
Yeah.
about. So when I got back to my car and I saw a text, I suspected that's what she was talking about. I said, congratulations, you're a finalist. And I didn't know that was the day they were making the announcement, any of it. So
Wow.
I just was so thrilled because I always think about it. You know, everybody's like, oh, April's gonna be a millionaire. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna be a millionaire. This is $1 million to spend on these babies. This is $1 million
Yeah.
for new incentives and initiatives. And so I started getting creative about that. So what I've been doing the last 3 Mondays is creating $1 million budget. And so each Monday
Mm.
I go in and tweak it because what I realize is that your limiting beliefs bubble up. So the first
Ooh.
time I did the budget, like I budgeted for 500,000 and then I was going to hoard 500,000 in the bank. And it literally didn't occur to me till the other day, like, girl, that's fear. Like you so scared that you gonna blow this money and be broke. And I was like, and I've never been like, I don't blow money. Like that's not how like money is going to bills, is going
Yeah.
to after
Yeah, I was gonna say
school
that's not
things
you.
that
I've
are
never known
needed.
you to be wasteful. Yeah.
No, no. And so I just was like, but it didn't occur to me. Like, and I had done the budget 2 weeks in a row and it didn't occur to me. And I'm like, why are you like stockpiling this money to the side? No, figure out how you're going to use it all to grow it,
Yes.
into initiatives for young people, to grow it into you having more opportunities to sell your board game, for you having more opportunities to sell. I have a curriculum that I built around the board game. So I have a
Oh,
digital curriculum
nice.
for parents, a digital curriculum for kids that they can pull up on their phones
Nice.
on an app. And then I go into classrooms. And like we were talking about, like I have this emotional attachment to clients. I hand
Yeah.
selected other attorneys like me, the ones who I'm like, nope, you're different. You build rapport. You see these babies as as an extension of yourself. You're on my
Mm.
squad. So I have
Mm.
3 of them, and we all go into classrooms and nonprofits together. But it was a mind shift. I was like, okay, I have to figure out how to plan for this win. You have to expect the win, not expect to be licking your wounds or to
Right. The
lose.
lack
So,
mentality. Yeah. You had to push that aside. Yeah. That's
mhm.
awesome. Oh, that's so awesome. That's so exciting. I am so excited for you. I
Thank
can
you.
only imagine just, where this board game is going to go. Like you said, you developed curriculum for it. Like you've got everything there. It's done. You've got everything. And that's really half the battle, so to speak, is doing it, and this is such a good lesson, I think, for anyone who has an idea of something that they want to do, whether it's doing something physical like a board game or a physical product or a service that they want to provide. And it's a good reminder to me too, because it's like, it's so easy to just get caught up in being comfortable and just saying no, that wouldn't work, because you could have easily said like a board game. Like, think about that, a board game, when there's a gazillion board games out there. Like, why would you think that you're going to put a board game out there? Most people would have those thoughts. And I don't know if you ever had those thoughts, but most people would let those thoughts overtake them and not do anything about it, and definitely not go on to develop a curriculum, and definitely not walk away from their full-time position as a lawyer, to do this full-time and become and do and practice law on a part-time basis. Girl, what's wrong with you? Right? That, you know what I mean? There would be people that would be thinking that or saying that, but I love the fact that you've done it, because it's such a great story. And really, your story, like, straight up, your story is really inspirational. And this is why I love doing what I'm doing, because it's like I get to talk to people that are making things happen, doing it fearful, doing it scared, doing it where they're not sure where the money's going to come from, but just making it happen and doing it anyway. And look at this. If you hadn't done this on a full-time basis, who knows if you'd be a finalist in something like this? Who
Oh, I
knows?
wouldn't. I wouldn't. And that's what I was going to say. So to any business owners who are watching, go get this money. So there are all these small business grants, and get this, they've reduced those by 71% just in the last year. So you got to go get this money while it's available, because I don't think it's going to be available long. All these companies started throwing money at Black businesses when George Floyd was killed. And so it
Mm,
started in 2020, but I don't think it's going to last that long. So you need to go get this money. But the reason I was able to set aside the time to apply for grants is because I wasn't working full time. I wasn't working another business full time. And I
mm.
put up a post about this saying back in 2021, I actually applied for 25 grants and I got a whopping 0 of them. I got rejected from all of them. And
Wow.
so then the next year, I was like, forget this. These grants ain't for me. They don't want me. I don't want them. But then in 2023, I started taking time to get better at it, get better at the grant writing, and get better at my business, to improve
Mm,
my business, to create a curriculum, to roll these new things out so that I have a robust with a repertoire when these grant tours are looking at me. And so I'm going
mm.
to tell any business owner out here, go get this money, apply. Your business does not have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have everything figured out. If you had everything figured out, how about the grant tours wouldn't be interested in you, because then they couldn't be part of your journey. You got it all figured
Right.
out. What do you need them for? And what they
Great
need you
point.
for? They want to be able to tell that they were a part of your story. And so, yeah, it's because I did. I've never strayed. I've never strayed from, I've never been fearful of leaps of faith. So back when I quit the public defender's office 18, 19 years ago, that was a leap of faith. I didn't know if I was going to be able to eat, pay my bills, but I knew I was done with that. And I needed to start a new phase. And I never looked back, and I never went crawling back for a job, asking, can I come back here because it's not quite working out over here? I've
Yeah.
never been fearful of that. When my law firm folded, finally 12 years into my partnership, I never was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I just always jump and take the new thing that's in front of me and know that there's going to be some type of safety net there. But you can never be fearful of that because you missed out on too many blessings. But yeah,
Mm.
having the extra time to be able to sit down. I'm in the midst of writing a $200,000 grant now. And it's got so many components to it. They want a video, they want a profit loss statement, they want a, I'm like, I'm writing a whole dissertation over here just to get this grant money. So you
Right.
have to be able to have the time to do that. And it's very difficult to do if you have a family and you have a full-time job and you come home absolutely depleted every night to be able to put
Right.
that time in. But whatever time you got, if you're a small business owner, go get this loot because it's out there for you.
I love that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. You have dropped so many gems and nuggets, honey. I'm just like, shoot. You know, like, and it's so helpful because people don't know. And I love what you said too, that you've never been fearful of the change. You've never been fearful. It's like, hey, this is no longer working. Let me go to this next, this next phase here. And let me ask you this, because I'm curious to know, when you say that you've never been fearful to take that next step, where do you think that comes from? Because I think, fear, some people feel the fear and do it anyway and do it scared. And some, kind of laugh at the fear, like, oh, okay, it is what it is. It's a new opportunity to go in a different direction. But most people are just crippled by that fear. They want to move forward, they want to get that business going, or they want to switch jobs or something, but they're just so fearful that it stops them. How do you prevent yourself from being stopped by the fear? Because you're human, you feel the fear, you feel the, maybe the little voices that come in your head, but you push through that. So how do you really, like, just keep going and pushing through it and don't let it stop you?
Part of it is a personality trait. I have a bold personality. I'm hard headed, but a lot of that is the training that we got in network marketing about no's. Like no's just mean not right now, and you're never going to get to the yes if you don't push through the no. So at this point, I've gotten at least 50 no's from grants from grantors. Like just
Right.
no, you know what we're looking for. No, here's a rejection. Here's a rejection. And then I got like probably the biggest opportunity in my life. I'm on the cusp of that. And so I know that I'll never get to the yeses if I get stopped by the no's. And so I
Mhm.
really think that that was excellent training, being in network marketing, being told
Mhm.
no on a daily basis, sometimes in not very nice ways at all. and
Facts. Facts.
being able to be like, okay, well, her nasty response did not kill me. And I guess
Right.
that I can go and get another no. And then
Facts.
also seeing how it paid off. If I was the one who was relentless and consistent and persistent, as opposed to maybe somebody else on my team or another team who was crippled by fear and asked one or two people and then did nothing. Like I was able to clearly make those
Mm.
comparisons. And
That's
so
good.
I'm just like, these no's, I'll say this, it's a lot more work to get to the no because you got to fill out these lengthy applications and do videos and P&L statements and all of that. So
Right.
that is different. But the whole process of having somebody who I don't know, I don't care about your opinion, tell me no, only for me to go apply to somebody else who I don't know and I don't care about your opinion, it doesn't matter. It's just part of the process. Because if you get a win, the wins are so big
Mm.
that all the no's were
Mm.
worth it. But I think, part of it is personality, but a lot of it is personal development. I constantly listen to the audios and I don't read
Mm.
books as much as I should, but I listen to the audio books and I'm always watching videos and that's how I spent the pandemic, was spending money I did not have on coaching programs. And I do mean tens of thousands of dollars on masterminds and coaching programs. Some were great, some were
Oh,
not so great, but I walked away
uh-huh.
with something from all of them. And that's one of the things I walked
Oh,
away with.
I love that. I love that. The coach got coached.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I always have coaches.
I love that. That's important. That's important, to get to that next level. You gotta, everybody that does anything successfully, they have a coach, a mentor, someone that can help them get to that next level. I love that. I love that.
I remember what a girl said in our network marketing program. She was some young girl and she had hit some high rank really fast. I think she was like 23. And from the main side, I'll never forget this. She says, you have a moral obligation to be wealthy because there are too many people waiting for you to serve them. And I was just like, more, and it just hit me in the chest. It was like somebody punched me when she was like, you have
Moral
a moral
issues.
obligation. Like, oh, it's
Wow.
like
That's like,
I'm being
that's
derelict in
huge.
my duties by being a slacker. I'm not serving somebody. There's somebody's teenager who's going to go to prison forever because I sat on my butt and I wasn't on top of my game. Like, that's what it is. And that's what drives me. So these no's do not matter. This, up and down income does not matter
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I am going to save somebody's baby, period.
Mm. Like it's rare that I'm speechless. But that that's everything. That's everything. Thank you for that reminder. Thank you for spending this time with me and sharing this information. Like I said, you dropped some nuggets, some gems, some everything. And I cannot wait to have that next conversation with you next week because I'm gonna be on and I'm like, okay, where we at? Where we at? Where we at? But definitely I'm gonna put your information, in this, and even today, I'm gonna post this because or post, how to get those votes for you, how to get to your board game. Like I said, I'm gonna buy another game. And I love what you do. I love what you do. I love the passion that you bring to it. Like when you put that video together for that grant girl, they're going to be like, oh, yes, yes, because you really feel it. You really feel it. And it is you. So thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know that this is a day too that you probably, this is your chill day with everything that you have going on during the week. So I appreciate you really taking this time and having a cup and conversation with me. I finished my smoothie. I'm proud of myself because I put a bunch of spinach in this one. I was trying to get that health in, right? But really, seriously, I appreciate you taking this time to have this conversation with me. And so I'm definitely going to get this posted, and we're excited for your success. And we'll be able to say, yes, we knew her before she got all of that. We knew her then. Y'all will be able to refer back to this video and go, yes, Sakina had a conversation with her. Yep, I know her. Thank you
Well, thank
so
you so
much.
much for having me on. This was fantastic. And thanks for spreading the word.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.